Hi and welcome back to Mentally Yours, a podcast presented by Mahfouz by Simran. And today's episode features a woman who has been a trailblazer in Indian education system, Mrs. Kavita Das. With over 25 years of experience in education, she served as the principal of St. John's High School. She is a fierce advocate in mental health, and today she wears the hat of Chief Executive of GD Goenka School, Mohali, where she is building a school from the ground up, from infrastructure to policies. So let's welcome Kavita ma'am. So how are you doing today, ma'am?
Very well, thank you.
How do you like you are a little overwhelmed with the setup and everything?
Yes, a little conscious of what's happening.
It's all right. Maybe, you will get used to this towards the end of the podcast.
I hope
probably.
so.
All right. So how is your day going?
Very well. I really enjoy being in a school.
I think, whenever I see you here, it feels like you really, really belong here. Okay. So you have created like this image of yours as this, as this amazing principal, loved by children. How do you do this in GD Goenka now? Like the mental health based practices, how children feel more inclusive in a space like this, if you would like to share some insights.
Well, it's a very conscious decision to have a school that is totally inclusive. So whether, it's a regular kid or whether it's a child who's a CWSN child, an EWS child, a child with behavioral issues, the thing is to find out the reason why and then to work to provide them a space where they are not only comfortable but where they are accepted and loved. So it's moving beyond just setting up, an infrastructure. Mm-hmm. It is moving to people. And our staff is trained to project the correct vibes, to actually love children. And that you can't fake, So when kids understand that they're loved and that whatever issues they are facing, it doesn't matter. Sure, we'll work with you, we'll try and rectify discipline issues, behavioral issues, but at the same time, we love you. And when that love communicates itself, I think that's the very basis for inclusion.
Absolutely. I think this is what we say in psychology, that love is the base of all of it. Like Correct. It can heal everything, right? Okay. So I was thinking that, this is not a contemporary teaching method that you follow here, right? And discipline and empathy, how do you make these two coexist in a classroom?
Children misbehave when they are feeling that they are not included, being ignored, or feeling inadequate in some way. So they're acting out that feeling. So the point is that when you're empathetic, when you can see a child's needs and you can cater to those needs, why should there be indiscipline? You keep them engaged. So the teaching is not traditional teaching here at all. It is very, very activity-based. It's very experiential-based. We take them into the real world and expose them to a lot of stuff. So they aren't only within a classroom at all times. They're out, they're doing things, they're engaged in different projects. So, kids are excited about all that and they're learning without realizing they're learning. So with this, you have very little indiscipline, very little.
Makes so much sense, yes. I mean, the way they will be utilizing their energy into something that is more productive.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yes.
And lots of positive reinforcement. That's important. Negative is kept to a minimum.
Of course. I think, when education is backed by a lot of psychology mechanisms going on at the back, it actually helps you, give a better front to education. right? Okay, with all of this going on, do you think it casts this pressure towards the teacher to be a certain way in a class, provide extra effort, towards children, be it somebody from PWD, somebody who is from like let's say a mental health, going through a mental health disorder of some sort? How do you manage that your teachers are also not going through some kind of stress with what all is happening?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. Of course, there's stress. It's, especially in the beginning when you're beginning to implement all these changes, and teachers have to switch over from traditional teaching to now being mothers in the classroom,
Yes.
being professionals at the same time, delivering on different platforms. It's not easy. So the way we try to help them is we do have counselors here and special educators who are helping. So when it comes to things like syllabus modification, the teachers aren't left to just do it on their own.
Makes sense.
They
yes.
have somebody who's sitting with them, guiding them, assessing the child with them. So they're being partnered at every stage. We try to handhold as much as possible, because if you just throw something at somebody, they feel like they're in the deep end without a life jacket.
Yes.
So it's very, very important that we continuously take feedback, sit with them, figure out strategies with them. And they should know that if they have a problem, they can come and discuss it. Right? No one's going to think that you're inadequate or that you're not working. Right? In fact, it's welcomed if you're coming in with issues, because it means you're addressing something. That's why an issue has arisen, right?
Yes.
So it's again a whole positive strategy with the teachers as well. And a lot of positive reinforcement there also. You can't only focus on children unless the
course.
staff become competent. It's not going to work.
So it's more of like a wholesome, holistic setup, let's say.
Absolutely. The whole community, including parents, including staff, including, coaches who are coming in, anybody, they're all being slowly aligned with the vision of the school. And initially it is difficult, which I also found, but then it becomes second nature. And once processes are in place, it becomes easy to do. So
I love this energy of how you're building the school up.
thank you.
So nowadays it's more about technology than regular education systems. How do you cope up with upcoming mental health concerns related to technology, and then at the same time making children tech savvy and introducing different kind of technology aspects in the classroom?
We use technology, but we don't make it the be-all and end-all of our teaching. Right. The human connect is the most important thing when it comes to teaching, and we are very clear about this. So technology is used to support teaching, but it is not teaching.
Yes.
Right? Once you're very clear about this difference, then incorporating technology into your entire teaching framework doesn't become difficult, because it's not mandatory that I have to have technology in every class. I might want to do an activity which does not involve technology, and that's fine too. In fact, if you ask me, that's better, because the connect is there between the teacher and the kid rather than a board.
Yes.
Right. So that's a support system. But at the same time, your teachers have to be tech savvy. They have to be kept updated with the latest technologies which are coming in, the latest apps and games which are coming in, which they can use to, strengthen their teaching. So yes, it's a fine balance to be maintained, but a very clear view that technology is not going to replace teaching.
Amazing.
The human factor can never be replaced, at least in my viewpoint.
Perfect.
I can take technology out of a classroom and still have a great class. But I don't feel that if you put technology exclusively into the classroom that you'll get a great class. You won't.
Perfect. So coming back to your tenure as a principal at St. John's, you got that position in 2007, right? And that was a time when people were following the conventional teaching method. You actually paved your way through it. How did that idea struck, and how was that, taken by the authorities, by the team, by the children, by the by the parents. I mean, because parents also have seen the conventional way of teaching कि आप मेरे बच्चे को मारो, आप ऐसे करो, है ना, वो नहीं सुन रहे तो आप उसको क्लास में खड़ा कर दो. How do you break that stereotype? I mean, as a principal, you did justice to the position, but how did you do it?
The same way which I'm doing here in GD Goenka. So it's all about reasoning, not just giving an order. Right, it's explaining the why behind what you're doing and helping people to understand that, bringing people on board with your vision. So once you have people on board, then it's a question of finding the solution together, not imposing it. So similarly with parents, with staff, with children, it was all about talking to them, explaining why I felt that this is better than that. And how would it benefit them also? After all, everybody wants to see, how do I get out? What do I get out of it? So showing them that you will have less discipline issues if your class is interesting. Your kids don't want to be missing class, right? So, in fact, it becomes a punishment if you say you're not going to be in my class. I'm going to send you on another errand because I just feel that, you aren't being able to manage yourself right here, right now. And for the kids, it's, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on the activities, I'm missing out on the fun, I'm missing out on the relationships. And if a class becomes like that, then discipline is zero.
Yes.
Right, the kids will discipline themselves because they want to be there.
In the class, yes.
So it was all about explaining to the teachers that this is how the benefits of changing our strategies. So once they understood this and they experimented with it, they found there was truth in what we were saying, then they became very excited. And we finally reached a stage where teachers were coming in saying, let's try this, let's try that. And of course, our approach was always, why not? Let's try it. If it's not that you shoot down anybody. Let's try it, see if it works. And if it works, hey, great, we'll implement it in the whole school. So that's how we did it, as a partnership. Rather than a boss implementing something through the very fact that she's principal, so you have to listen to her, because it's never going to work unless the team is on board. And they are, as I said, working with their hearts.
Yes. And as you said, you don't want to give your team that feel that you are at this higher position. You have this hierarchy. Because I remember when I called you for the first time, I heard your voice and I was like, wow, it soothes me. It was so good to hear your voice. Seriously, I mean, you have that aura where people would like to come to talk to you, right?
But you have to be accessible.
Yes.
Absolutely. I always said I should have never had a door because it was like a swinging door. Wow. One would come in, one would go out, another one coming in. So it was just traffic all the time. But
I love that.
That's what I believe really makes it a vibrant school.
Yes.
Because your kids, your staff, your parents you are accessible to everybody.
Absolutely.
That's important.
Would you like to share some tips maybe of what you did at St. John's, maybe for some schools that are trying to implement or trying to, make their school more inclusive, and what can they start with probably?
I think knowledge is where it all begins. So read up on everything that is expected of us because it's all there. It's just that we don't read it. We don't implement it. There's nothing I'm implementing that is not already there in black and white. So it's only a question of reading it and then deciding to implement it. As I said, I keep using this word from the heart, right? Caring. So when you do that, the strategies of how to implement it will fall into place automatically. We need to understand that counselors and special educators are now vital to schools. They are not just add-ons who are a nuisance, right? So we need full-time educators, we need full-time counselors and special educators. We need them working as teams. We need to understand every child and we need to empower our staff. For example, let's take CWSN. You should be able to identify the kids by the time they're in class 2.
Yes.
You've watched for the signs. Now, Prashast gives you all that list. All you have to do is take that list and look at it. So that's what I'm saying. The knowledge is there. Acquire it. Be comfortable with it. Understand what you're looking for. Be willing to engage with the special educator or the counselor and say, I think this kid has got an issue. Would you come and back me up? So the counselor walks into class, doesn't say why, just sort of like, they will take a period in the class. But they're observing the child. When they observe the child, then they decide that is the teacher's reading of the child correct? Or maybe there's another explanation for it which the teacher hasn't seen. So once they've decided on that, then they will chart a course of action for the child where everything will be modified so that the child is comfortable and can be bridged. See, ultimately, we have to bridge them. That's very important because at the board level exam, when they're going to do it, there is no abridged syllabus, right? So bridging is really important, working on how can we strengthen whatever gaps there are so that the child is ready to sit for an exam at the end of it and yet is comfortable, not stressed out. It takes a lot of hands-on work with it, but it does work. I know it does.
I mean, we all have seen it. So how has your experience been building up this school with all of your past experience in the previous schools that you have worked?
My experience at GD Goenka has been amazing because the management, as well as the principal, as well as the staff, have all been very open to change, right? We're all determined that this school is going to be a school that is child-centric. This school is going to be a school that defines itself. Its idea of success is not marks and achievements. Its idea of success is how many of our kids are comfortable? How many of our kids are happy? Is the happiness quotient high? If the happiness quotient is high, children will automatically flourish.
Yes.
That has been our experience, right? You give them opportunities to tap into their talents. You encourage both staff and students and parents and the community at large to interact. When you can do this, then you get a staff and a school that is a great school. And I think it's shaping up well.
I hope so. I mean, I can see the vibe around the school. The children look really happy. Whenever I see children out there engaged into something or other, then really into it.
Exactly. And if you pass their classrooms, we have these big windows which you can look into a classroom as you're walking down the corridor. The minute they see you, they're laughing, they're blowing you kisses, It shows they're happy kids.
Yes.
And if they're happy to see you, wow, you've done something right.
Amazing. One last tip that you would like to let everybody know as to, for parents, for children, for guardians, or for school authorities, as to, how to create a happier space for children, how to, provide them love.
I've always worked with 4 touchstones. They are spirituality, compassion, justice and advocacy, right? And inclusion. So when you work with these 4 touchstones and everything you do, you check against them, right? Am I meeting all these 4 touchstones? Now, spirituality is very often neglected in schools.
Yes.
Right? Value education is given very little time, or it's treated as a period where you can teach. Yes. But when you start prioritizing these, what you're giving children is an anchor that will hold them in place for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Right. When everything else fails them, they can turn to God. And I found that in my own life. So knowing this, having experienced it, we teach our children to be conscious of the fact that they are part of creation. They have a responsibility towards creation, right? And that whatever you do, impacts everybody around you. You are not living in a silo, you're not living in a vacuum, right? So when you function with this, and when you remember that when you're interacting with children, 2 things are really important. One is love, as I keep reiterating. The second is justice and fairness. If a child feels you are fair, they will accept anything.
Yes.
Right? They will not feel that sense of, oh, this is not right. And so if you can impart that to your children, they are happy, stable kids who will learn very fast. And teaching them, you don't compete against the world. You compete against yourself, because there is nobody else like you in this world. You are unique.
Absolutely.
How do you compete against somebody who's not the same as you? Competition happens when you have the same. But every child is unique and different. Right, we teach them your fingerprints can never be repeated. So that tells you God's made you differently. So who do you compete against? You can't compete against your neighbor. His gifts are probably, he's a great athlete, you're not. So how are you going to compare yourself? So when you compete against yourself.
Amazing. I
Right.
think this is what we need to imbibe in children from the very young age, because they have this competitive spirit, and in the name of competition they end up doing, injustice to themselves.
And to the world around them. Unethical practices will prevail,
Yes.
right? Unhealthy competition will come in. And when you look at it, it's a ladder you're climbing at the cost of somebody else. That's not the way it should be. You should earn your promotions on the basis of your own merits, not on whether you ran down somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right. You've proved yourself. So I think the world would be a much better place if we could bring that in.
Absolutely.
So we try to do that in the microcosm of our school.
I think this is how we'll proceed as a nation, right? And talking about unconventional yet very effective teaching methods, what do you think about Edgthon? I think it's a very creative space that is expanding the horizon of education system in a way. How has your experience been with Edgthon?
Highly supportive, which is exactly the kind of environment we work with. Very creative, as you said. They're always looking to do things differently, which makes it exciting. So, even if they'll hold something as mundane as a seminar, they'll do it in a way that is totally changed from what you would expect. They will bring in very exciting people. And so I think they're doing an amazing job.
What do you think Edgthon is fulfilling as a need? What is this need that Edgthon is fulfilling?
Every system needs support.
Absolutely.
Right. There are lacuna which you cannot fill because you are engaged with the school. And yet there are many things that we can benefit from, like a seminar. We can see, the interviews they have of these wonderful, successful people, and their interviews are very human, where they expose the fragility in themselves as well as how did they triumph over it. So you learn a lot when you go and get involved with their seminars and their workshops and their different programs, because they give you opportunities which you possibly can't get just by yourself.
Absolutely.
So it's like a supporting framework, and that
Makes
is really
sense.
important in education.
How do you think, is there a particular tip or insight that you got from Edgthon that you maybe would like to apply in your school system, or something that you would like to be, used in the school setup that should be done frequently, let's say?
I would look at the creativity which they implement. Even like I said, if they do a mundane seminar, they will do it in a different way. So I think it's this approach which we need to, rather than do this. It's their approach to things which is very important, that when you're doing something, don't go the tried and true way. Everybody's done that. Try and find a way to do it differently. That makes it exciting for the children. It's something new to experiment with. So you're stretching yourself at every go. And when you stretch yourself is when you grow. Nobody grows in a comfort zone.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. It's only when you are facing hardships, when you're pushing your boundaries, that you actually grow. So that is what I would really take from them and bring it to the school.
I loved it. I think it was really insightful. I loved the warmth that was there during the podcast. I was very high on energy, but then, as I said in the podcast as well, ma'am's voice is really soothing. So I had a really, really warm. It almost feels like a hug, and I hope it was really helpful for all the viewers. And we'll see you in the next episode of Mentally Yours, presented by Mehfooz by Simran. Till then, take care of your mental health the way you take care of your physical health.
Thank you.